Japanese have attacked our defense facilities of the Philippines.
The Japanese are closing in on the city of Singapore from the north and west. In Burma, the Japanese have crossed the Salween River.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the early morning news of the world. The first round of the battle for the Dutch East Indies may not be over yet, but so far the Allied nations are way ahead.
It's reported that the Dutch have begun destruction of the oil installations. If completed, it would be the greatest material voluntary destruction the world has known.
major highlights in the news of the day. The whole nation has its fingers crossed for the Navy fighting what may be one of the most crucial battles of World War II. As we must, we are suffering losses, but we are also inflicting losses on the enemy.
To some folks that the Japanese offensive power in the Pacific has been really crippled.
Marine jungle fighters on New Britain Island have made new gains in the face of strong Jap opposition.
In the Southwest Pacific, our flyers have scored an impressive victory over Jap planes in the New Guinea area. And in the Solomons on Guadalcanal, United States Army forces have outflanked the Japs to make a substantial advance.
MacArthur reports from Australia that our bombers have made 3 trips over the Jap base at Wewak and its harbor area, shore installations, seaplane base, and airdrome.
People of the Philippines, I have returned. Our forces stand again on Philippine soil.